The nation is under the influence of Typhoon Khanun starting from the southern regions. Flights are cancelled and people have been evacuated as the country braces for the impact of the powerful storm that's expected to drive through the peninsula. Authorities are tightening measures against the storm for young Jamboree scouts for their safe participation in programs throughout the rest of their stay in Korea. Power demand in Korea is estimated to have reached a peak that's not seen before for 2 days in a row amid a record heat wave. It's August 9th, 2023. This is News Center. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Yoon Min. We begin with Typhoon Khanun that's edging closer toward the Korean peninsula. It has already caused widespread damage in neighboring Japan and is expected to make landfall on South Korea tomorrow morning. We now connect live to our Song Yoo-jin, who is in one of the areas that's already experiencing the effects of this powerful storm. Yoo-jin, tell us where you are and what's the situation like there?
Yes, Cheolmin, I'm currently in the southeastern port city of Pohang in Gyeongsang-buk-do province of the country, which is one of the areas that is already feeling the effects of Typhoon Khanun even before it made its landfall. And as you can see right now, due to the heavy rain, it's really hard for me to stand still in one place. So southern regions of the country, including where I am right now, have been grappling with relentless rain and strong gusts since the early morning. They've gotten even stronger throughout the day as the typhoon is edging closer, which has prompted the weather agency to issue heavy rain and strong wind alerts. Now, as you might be able to see behind me, the sea waves have gotten big as well. They've grown remarkably taller over the past couple of hours. And earlier today, before we came to the site, our team also visited a nearby port where we could see numerous ships secured to their docks for safety. And I tried to talk to some local residents about how they're bracing for the storm but as there were barely people on the streets, I couldn't really talk to them, but I think that this really shows how this region is getting ready.
Absolutely. People are clearly taking this typhoon very seriously. And Yoo-jin, tell us what measures are being taken to minimize any potential damage.
Yes, well, Cheolmin, I can say that the entire nation is on high alert as we're expecting heavier rainfall and stronger winds tomorrow once the typhoon makes its landfall on the country. We're already seeing strong winds and heavy rainfall right now as well, and especially as last year's Typhoon Hynix resulted in the loss of 11 lives nationwide. And I want to point out that here in Pohang, authorities are extremely vigilant as 9 out of those 11 lives were reported in this region alone, including 7 caused by a flooded underground parking lot. So in response, here in Pohang, more than 500 local residents have evacuated for their safety from their homes, and the authorities have also issued another evacuation order today, and we could see also flood barriers and sandbags positioned to really divert the water from coming into the buildings. And as for the other parts of the country, as of today morning, around 140 flights out of 500 going in and out of the southernmost Jeju Island have been canceled, as well as dozens of sea routes, roads, and hundreds of hiking trails across the country having been closed off for safety. So local governments are really inspecting facilities that are susceptible to flooding, which include underpasses, reservoirs, as well as outdoor billboards and traffic signs, which could collapse due to strong winds caused by the typhoon. So it's strongly advised that people stay away from coastal areas as well as regions vulnerable to landslides, rock falls, and electrocution hazards, such as construction sites and telegraph poles. That's all I have for now. Back to you, Cheolmin.
Thanks, Yoo-jin. To stay safe. For more on the weather updates, let's go straight to our Lee Seung-min at the Weather Center. Seung-min, what can you tell us and where is the typhoon now?
Well, Tongmin, I'm going to have to tell you that the pathway for Typhoon Khanun is almost parallel to the Korean peninsula as it's moving towards the north. If you take a look at the satellite imagery, the eye of the typhoon is very distinct. It has gotten bigger over time, which means that its intensity has also increased. Khanun is forecast to make landfall on South Korea's southern coast tomorrow morning. When Khanun makes landfall in South Korea, its central atmospheric pressure is set to reach 970 hectopascals. After, it may possibly pass through the Seoul metropolitan area. As you can see, various alerts are issued tonight. For parts of Gangwon-do and Gyeongsang-do provinces, heavy rain advisories are in place. Typhoon alerts are issued for Jeju Island and the surrounding waters as well. As for the overall amount of rainfall, eastern Gangwon-do province will see severe downpours of up to 600 millimeters. Gyeongsang-do province can expect up to 400. Western regions, including the Seoul metropolitan area and Chungcheong-do provinces, will see up to 200 millimeters. And violent winds will also follow as well. For the south coast, in particular, gusty winds of up to 40 meters per second will be sweeping across the region. This is strong enough to flip over cars and even cut power lines. Please take extra precautions. I'll be back with more updates later in the newscast. Back to you, Jungmin.
Right, thank you, Seungmin. Keep us posted. Typhoon Khanun is on a trajectory that hasn't been witnessed in over 7 decades, as it's set to travel the length of the Korean peninsula. And its slow path speed could potentially lead to significant damage across the country. Here is our Shin Se-byuk with this report.
Typhoon Khanun, the 6th named storm of the season, appears to be posing a significant threat to South Korea. Khanun, with the categorization of a strong typhoon, is projected to travel along the central region of the Korean peninsula, a path that hasn't been observed in over 70 years.
This typhoon is taking an unprecedented path toward our country. Typhoons have almost never made landfall on the southern coast and then continued on a northward trajectory like this.
The typhoon is expected to make landfall on the southern coast of Gyeongsangnam-do province on Thursday morning. According to the Korea Meteorological Administration, rainfall will be accompanied by powerful gales with wind speeds of over 33 meters per second, forceful enough to blow trains over. Then it is forecast to continue directly towards the capital region through early Friday morning. What could make it even worse is Khanun is moving at a slow pace.
It's moving slowly. Due to its sluggish speed, it will have an extended impact on South Korea.
When Khanun reaches Jeju Island, its speed is anticipated to be around 18 kilometers per hour. This is half the average speed of 30 to 40 kilometers per hour that a typhoon usually moves at. Khanun's speed resembles that of Typhoon Rusa back in 2002, which is the most powerful tropical storm to have hit South Korea so far. Rusa crossed the Korean peninsula at a speed of about 20 kilometers per hour for approximately 21 hours, leaving nearly 250 dead or missing and causing over 5 trillion won in property damage. For Khanun, it is expected to move along the peninsula for about 36 hours, raising significant concerns about the potential for enormous damage. Lastly, a major concern arises from the fact that the entire country falls within the direct impact zone of the typhoon. Consequently, damage is expected throughout the country, prompting the government to warn citizens to be prepared for the impact. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
South Korea is making every effort to ensure that World Scout Jamboree participants stay safe during the typhoon. It's tightening security safety measures and letting the young scouts engage in indoor activities tomorrow. Our Lee Si-hoo tells us more.
The Ministry of the Interior and Safety is strengthening preventative measures to ensure the safety of participants in the 25th World Scout Jamboree as Typhoon Khanun approaches the Korean peninsula. This was according to Interior Minister Lee Sang-min at a press briefing in Seoul on Wednesday. The ministry is scaling up preventive patrols to spot potential hazards such as flooding, landslides, and rockfalls near accommodation sites for participants that are spread around the country. It is doing this by cooperating with regional administrations and the police and fire agencies. If the accommodation is likely to be directly impacted by the typhoon, the government will share real-time disaster information with the World Organization of Scout Movements.
We'll also inform the Scout members of the weather situation and give them emergency instructions, and do our best to make sure they stay safe from the typhoon.
This comes as all scouts had left the Saemangeum campsite by Tuesday evening and were placed in accommodation in different locations around the country. Since Wednesday morning, the scouts have been engaging in activities prepared by regional administrations. The activities include watching and taking part in a dance performance by the Han River, a visit to Hwaseong Fortress, a World Heritage Site in Gyeonggi-do Province, and playing Korean traditional farm music or Pungmulnori in Jeollabuk-do Province. As for Thursday, however, they will only engage in indoor activities due to the typhoon. Meanwhile, the government has deployed 130 officials to provide safety and medical support at the accommodation sites and 180 to offer translation services. The police and fire agencies are also on standby to ensure maximum safety during activities. Lee Si-hu, Arirang News.
Demand for electricity here is estimated to reach its highest so far on Monday and Tuesday, with both days exceeding the 100 gigawatt mark at one point for the first time ever. Our Park Go-nu has more.
South Korea has seen its highest power demand so far for this summer during the past 2 days. According to the Korea Power Exchange, the estimated average electricity use between 2 to 3 p.m. on Monday and Tuesday surpassed 100 gigawatts. This is the first time in history for the power demand to exceed this mark. Over the past few years, the country has continued to see increasing record power demand. After it topped 90 gigawatts for the first time in 2018, it reached almost 95 gigawatts last year, also breaking the peak of the previous year. An expert says this year's record high demand is due to the prolonged extreme weather.
The reason why demand for electricity shot up this summer is because of the continued scorching heat since June. If the hot weather continues for more than 1 week without cooling down even a bit, there's a dramatic increase in power demand.
He also attributed the recent peak to Typhoon Khanun, raising temperatures as it approaches the country, alongside businesses returning to full operation after summer breaks. Responding to the situation, the second Vice Industry Minister, Kang Kyung-sung, inspected the Seoul Incheon Electricity Control Center, which is the preliminary backup facility to supply power nationwide, as a last resort in emergencies. The ministry also announced that it will continue to run the emergency system until the end of the summer and prepare for Typhoon Khanun that is expected to travel the length of the Korean peninsula. Park Go-nu, Arirang News.
With the nation's Liberation Day approaching next week, President Yoon Suk-yeol expressed his and the country's gratitude to independence movement heroes and their surviving family members at a special lunch. On Wednesday, around 160 people were invited to the guest house at Cheongwade, the former presidential office and residence, for a meal commemorating the nation's independence movement. Among the guests was 99-year-old Kim Young-won, a surviving veteran of the Korean Liberation Army. There, President Yoon emphasized that the liberation movement aimed to establish a democratic country, making it a just cause not only for Korea but for the world. South Korea will join a working group to implement Ukraine's peace initiative proposed by President Volodymyr Zelensky. Seoul's top office confirmed Wednesday that the decision was made at the multilateral peace talks held in Saudi Arabia over the weekend. National Security Advisor Cho Tae-yong was part of the dialogue with his counterparts from 44 other nations as they discussed establishing a working group to push for an end to the ongoing war and the building of peace in Ukraine. This comes after a bilateral summit between Presidents Yoon and Zelensky last month, where Yoon voiced support for the Ukraine leader's 10-point peace formula. Mr. Zelensky's peace initiative includes radiation and nuclear safety, food security, energy security, and the release of all prisoners and deportees. South Korea's job market in July saw the smallest increase in 2 years and 5 months in terms of the number of people on the payroll. This was largely affected by the torrential downpour. Our An Sung-jin brings us the details.
Data from Statistics Korea on Wednesday shows that 28.68 million people were employed in South Korea in July. That figure is an increase of more than 210,000 compared to the same month the year before. However, it's a sharp slowdown when compared to the pace of increases seen since the beginning of 2023, when there were gains in the 300 to 400,000 range. In fact, July saw the smallest increase since February 2021.
With the increasing demand for daycare services and more outdoor activities resuming, a rise in the number of people in employment continues. But due to the monsoon and the sluggish construction market, the on-year increase dropped compared to June.
In terms of individual sectors, healthcare and social assistance, as well as leisure and restaurant services, all saw job additions. The construction and agricultural and fisheries sectors saw a downturn compared to the previous year, mainly due to the severe weather conditions that hit the peninsula. This greatly affected jobs for day labor, leading to the biggest drop by 18.8% since January 2021. South Korea's unemployment rate dropped 0.2 percentage points to 2.7%, the lowest recorded for any July since 1999. The employment rate for those aged 15 to 64 saw an on-year increase to 69.6%. A detailed breakdown, however, indicates that for those in their 20s, the employment rate has dipped for the 9th consecutive month, while the rate for those in their 40s saw a drop for the 13th consecutive month.
We're seeing a trend where companies prefer temporary workers rather than full-time employees. This aligns with the employment structure where older adults in need of jobs due to the lack of retirement income take temporary jobs, whereas the number of young people employed in their 20s and 30s continues to decrease.
The expert added that the fundamental solution to increase employment for people in their 20s and 30s is to vitalize the economy and ultimately increase jobs for full-time workers. In order to do so, government incentives may be helpful to encourage corporate investment. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Now, exports of pet food products and smart home solutions are looking to expand as Korea works to diversify its export items and to ease the red tape hindering trade. Lee Soo-jin explains.
South Korea's government is continuing its push to boost the nation's exports. Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho on Wednesday held an emergency meeting on the economy with related ministers and said that the government will diversify exports and ease regulations as exports show signs of recovery. According to preliminary data from the Bank of Korea on Tuesday, South Korea recorded a current account surplus of $5.9 billion in June, marking a surplus for the second consecutive month. The minister, however, emphasized that the government will continue to remain vigilant.
We plan to remain attentive given the uncertainties in the global economy, such as the potential delayed boost from China's reopening.
One area that is set to receive increased support as part of plans to diversify export items is the pet care industry. The Agricultural Ministry announced during the emergency economic meeting that its goal is to more than triple the value of pet food exports from $149 million last year to $500 million in 2027. To do this, it plans to establish a more specific pet food classification system for the different types of pet food, as well as nutrients in the pet food to further set it apart from animal feed. The ministry will also expand safety evaluation and registration of raw materials to assist development in the pet food industry. The government is also aiming to increase exports of intelligent home systems. Intelligent home systems connect various home appliances such as lights and doors so that homeowners can control them all under one unified AI-based system. The Ministry of Science and ICT said that it plans to establish an internationally accredited laboratory in Korea by the end of the year to help intelligent home system companies compete in the global market. The government will also ease regulations at bonded warehouses where imported dutiable goods are stored to enhance exports in high-tech industries. The Korea Customs Service plans to allow companies to assemble, repair, and package in addition to storing items at these warehouses and also make it easier for local firms to obtain licenses to establish new bonded warehouses. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
SK Hynix, one of the world's leading memory chip makers, has unveiled a sample of its 321-layer 4D NAND flash memory chip. This marks the first in the world. Our Chung Eun-ju explains the significance.
SK Hynix, the world's second-largest memory chip maker, has showcased its progress in chip stacking technology by unveiling the industry's first NAND chips with more than 300 layers. At the Flash Memory Summit in Santa Clara, California on Wednesday, the South Korean company introduced a sample of its 321-layer 4-dimensional NAND flash memory chip, a type of non-volatile storage technology that doesn't require power to retain data. The company added it will begin to mass produce them with a 1 terabyte capacity in the first half of 2025. SK Hynix says the 321-layer NAND improves productivity by 59% compared to its 238-layer predecessor, the industry's current most layered and smallest available NAND chips. The company also says that its technological competitiveness accumulated from the 238-layer NAND helped with the development of the new 321-layer product. Following the popularity of ChatGPT, the generative AI market has seen rapid growth, increasing demand for high-performance and high-capacity memory chips that can process more data faster. To meet the trend, SK Hynix unveiled its next-generation NAND solutions, which include the Enterprise Solid-State Drives or SSDs that support the PCIe Gen 5 interface and UFS 4.0. PCIe, short for Peripheral Component Interconnect Express, is a serial structured high-speed input and output interface used in the main boards of digital devices. UFS stands for Universal Flash Storage, used for digital cameras, mobile phones, and other consumer electronics. The company expects these products to achieve an industry-leading performance to fully meet customer needs with a focus on high performance. Chung Eun-ju, Arirang News.
Typhoon Khanun is pushing north without changing course. It's currently packing winds as fast as 35 meters per second. As you can see, southern parts of the country are currently in white, which are the rain clouds, and by tomorrow the entire nation will be covered, which means nationwide rain. And with the showers, extreme heat will take a brief respite for central regions. So we'll see maximum temperatures dropping by about 6 degrees down to 27, and readings will stay below the 30-degree mark until Friday. Torrential downpours are in the forecast nationwide. Gangwon province in particular, heavy rain of 60 to 80 millimeters per hour will slam the region. For those across low-lying regions, please take extra precautions as there is a high risk of landslides and flooding. Under rainy spells, Seoul and Daegu will be starting off at 25 degrees Celsius. Daytime highs won't be rising too much, so we'll get up to 27, Daegu 29, Gyeongju and Busan will be topping out at 30 degrees. And central regions will see heavy downpours until Friday morning. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is News Center for tonight. Thanks for watching. A panel session coming up.